Hi there! The following video has been written and created without the use of AI. Please support your human content creators by liking the video and commenting something down below. I promise I read every single comment that you write me. And leave a sub if you enjoy it. Thank you! Dandy sat in his shop, using a rag to clean the counter. His expression was unreadable, almost atomic. He was used to this. The Ico extraction today was bountiful at least, and retrieval of tips while lackluster was still in acceptable measures. He couldn't wait for the exploring toons to return. He even prepared that what the toons would consider the equivalent of coffee. It was just heated up energy drinks, with just a hint of spice added so it wouldn't taste like tar. A noise made him look up, however. The elevator had started moving. Curiously, he looked at his little computer. Extraction was completed. Another successful exploration. He jumped with excitement, placing the drinks on the counter and then arranging his trinkets quickly before sitting down on his usual spot, a crate facing the elevator. But as the elevator doors opened, a cold sweat ran down his spine. The battle box was covered in deep scratches, walls, ground and ceiling caked in black ichor, so fresh the liquid was still steaming. Inside, only one singular toon. No, that wasn't a toon anymore. You weren't a toon anymore. What used to be the much-beloved jester toon Chuckles was now a ravenous beast with a maw akin to a black hole, devouring everything that moved. Surrounded by black gore stood your purple blue-dressed figure. Mouth clapping like a bear trap, with 2 rows of razor-sharp teeth that vibrated in their gums like an automated saw. You were covered from head to toe in ichor, only a few spots hinting at the color beneath. Your skin as white as a ghost, while your eyes repeatedly flashed in red and yellow, like a siren. Ichor dripping off your gloved hands. Your eyes moving independently of each other, quickly scanning the room before both zoned in on Dandy. For a split second, that felt like minutes, Dandy and the Twisted stared at each other, sizing each other up. Dandy had a defense, a twisted version of himself that he kept docile by playing the tapes the other toons brought him. It could protect him. But your head snapped back, opening your starving maw to its maximum size. And before Dandy could jump off his crate, you sprinted towards him. Your hands gripping his shoulders painfully as you unleashed a banshee-like scream right into his face. It was this scream Twisted Chuckles like you used to temporarily stun toons, though Dandy, as the leader of the ichor operation, was a more trained survivalist than the others. He had known the moment you stepped out the elevator that you'd scream at him, so he had pressed both hands on his ears as quickly as he could. You pushed him to the ground, stepping over him while he crawled backwards on all fours. The shop was located on an office floor, his Twisted variant locked up in the middle management office. That was at the end of a large office hall, which he had to maneuver through if he wanted to reach his counterpart to deal with you. Screaming, more to hype himself up rather than to seem weak, he rolled on his hands, jumped up and rushed for the back room of his shop towards the office section. You tore after him with inhuman speed, your limbs hitting the floor in jagged rhythms. You crawled and twisted low, then leapt like a spider, your fingers clawing the tiles, scraping up curls of linoleum. He was fast, but not fast enough. Dandy crashed through the swinging door into the first office block. You followed like a shadow of teeth. Fluorescent lights buzzed above, casting a sterile glow on broken desks. Stacks of unopened fireboxes made your path a maze, but you smashed through them like paper. Dandy kicked over a rolling cart. It skidded towards you. You ducked and let it slam against the wall. You moved faster now. He leapt at the desk, slid across it, knocking over monitors. You ducked low, hands slapping the floor for traction. You sniffed the air for a scent. The Ica trail was hot and fresh. He turned into a cubicle lane, yanking a chair behind him. And it made you trip for a moment. Caught yourself with a handstand and flipped forward. Your teeth snapped in the air just behind him. You could smell the panic coming off of his petals. You could hear his heartbeat through the walls. Dandy reached the break room and threw the fridge down. It crashed in front of the door. You smashed through it, but hitting your head painfully. A wave of sparks and cooling gel exploded around you, and he shrieked but kept running. Past overturned chairs, broken coffee machines, and busted light panels, you followed without pause. Your lungs did not burn, not anymore. Your legs did not tire, not anymore. But his did. He slipped on his own spilled ichor and slammed into a filing cabinet. A hollow laugh came from your twisted form, a sound like choking clocks and distant bells. He forced himself up and kicked the cabinet down to block you. You leapt it, almost catching his leg. He twisted out of reach and threw a stapler at your face. You caught it with your teeth and spit it out. He made it into a side hall where the ceiling sagged and the floor creaked. You followed, slower now, not because you had to, but because you wanted to see what he'd do next. He was prey, but clever. A feeling like respect melted safe known to you. Even in the middle of a hunt, even with your brain screaming for more ichor. The hallway groaned as you stepped onto the warped tiles. Ceiling tiles hung like wet leaves swaying from rusted frames. Each flickering light buzzed like a dying insect. Water stains crawled down the walls in shapes like screaming faces. The carpet was torn and curled at the edges, exposing rot and wire. You kicked past an abandoned swivel chair, its wheels squeaking a final protest before falling silent. Dandy ran ahead, limping now. He had hurt his foot. His petals dropped with exertion. His breath ragged. He stumbled past broken filing cabinets, their drawers ripped out like rips. A fax machine sparked as he brushed it with his elbow. You followed with an almost mechanical calm. You ducked low beneath cracked glass and sagging beams. The sound of your steps echoed louder than his. He passed an old copy room. You saw mold crawling up the paper stacks like vines. A toppled bulletin board blocked your path. You stepped through it, tearing felt wood without slowing. Danny looked back and whimpered. His feet slapped wet tiles. He kicked open a fire door. It banged against the wall, revealing another narrow hall. Paint peeled in long yellow strips. Where the hell was his twisted counterpart? He didn't remember the office being this big. What was happening? You sniffed the air again. He reeked of fear and effort. His ichor had begun to smear on the floor with every footfall. You ran your tongue over your teeth, tasting the tension in the air. Ahead, the hallway twisted like a nightmare. Dandy skidded into a sharp left, and you followed. came face to face with a mountain of broken cubicle walls stacked as a barricade. Your hand stuck into the drywall, and you lifted yourself, tossing yourself over the obstacle. He was improvising quickly, adapting, trying anything, and you found yourself smiling, or what was left of a smile. Your gums pulsed with interest, not hunger. You respected the desperation in this dance. Each desk overturned, each cabinet spilled, each broken drawer a breadcrumb in a frantic map. He was leading you through an office graveyard, and still you followed, drawn not just by need, but something else. You wanted to see how this ended. He burst into the last hallway, pretty sure his twisted was just out of sight. A narrow strip of cracked tiles and flickering lights. At the end stood the office door. He slammed his fists against it, but nothing happened. No answer, no movement inside. No. Where was his twisted counterpart? No, this couldn't be happening. Soon you turned the corner. Silent, dragging your fingers across the wall, leaving a smear of ichor behind. He looked over his shoulder, now true panic in his eyes. His chest heaved like bellows. He reached down, picked up a broken lamp, swung it weakly in your direction. You didn't even flinch. It shattered against the floor, glass skittering beneath your feet. You stepped forward, deliberate, enjoying the weight of each step. He backed up until the wall pressed against his spine, raised his fists, kicked once at the air in front of you, desperate, so hopeless. His eyes started looking for an exit that didn't exist. You tilted your head. The saw teeth in your mouth spun lazily. Your arms hung limp like marionette strings, like a macabre parody of a Fleischer cartoon. He tried to yell, but it came out as a choked whimper. You stopped just outside arm's reach. His whole body trembled, petals dropping, ichor dripping from his knees. You leaned in close. He flinched, turned his face away. You didn't strike, just stared, your eyes flashing still in red and yellow, listening to the rhythm of his ragged breaths. You could smell the panic in him, could hear the ichor pumping through his veins. Your limbs twitched, creaking. You were hungry, but no longer for food. Your shoulders rose, arms lifting slowly like a shadow stretching across the wall. Dandy covered his head, curved slightly, kicked once more out of instinct, not strategy. You opened your mouth, let the whirring grow louder. He whimpered again, and you brought your claws down, but not yet, just above him, frozen in the moment before ruin. Hungry, focused, watching, waiting. The hunt was practically completed by this point, and your prize was trembling beneath you. But you were no longer interested in satiating your hunger. He had entertained you, a feeling that at least until now was believed to be permanently gone within a twisted. You leaned forward until your body was pushing him down, your teeth dangerously close to his petals and neck. Your mouth fell backwards, a gaping abyss stared back at Dandy. He could feel his petals lose color out of fear, while his face flushed with exhaustion. And then Something stirred in the darkness of your maw. Splat! He didn't even get a chance to react before a massive, thick, tentacle-like tongue or appendage forced its way past his lips, thick, cold, and slick with slime. It came right out of your gaping mouthhole. It slipped into his with wet, heavy sounds. His teeth clamped down in shock, but it didn't stop you. It pressed against his tongue, then dragged itself slowly across the roof of his mouth. It moved like a living thing, squirming, curling, tasting. His jaw shook. His breath hitched in the back of his throat. It was disgusting. The texture obscene, soft like warm meat, but wet and writhing like a snake in water. It reached into every corner of his mouth, slicked across his gums, pulsed, becoming thicker, leaving a taste behind, metallic, sharp, bitter, like ichor. He tried to hate it, tried to gag, but something in his gut twisted because it didn't just feel awful, it felt great. It pressed down and curled around his tongue and filled his mouth completely, gave him no space to think, only feel. His face burned, shame rising, because he could feel his body responding in kind, treacherous, and hot. He hated that he didn't want it to stop, but he didn't make it stop. Not yet. Without the appendage removing itself from his mouth, your right hand slapped on his chest painfully. It gripped and clawed, like it was trying to gently brush and touch, but coming short of it due to lack of emotional understanding. The idea of a feeling you had for him during the chase, you desired to explore it, as you are no longer able to comprehend it. Dandy groaned and moaned as his eyes teared up. Your tongue was getting deeper. It was getting hard not to vomit. And your touches, exploratory, deep, and almost lewd, were increasingly painful. And yet, the fact he hasn't shared the same fate as your friends, at least not yet, was making him have a faint glimmer of hope that perhaps, just perhaps, he could get out of this alive, even without his twisted counterpart. Your tongue pulled back slow, dragging every nerve in his mouth with it, until it slivered free with a wet snap, leaving his lips red and glistening. His breath escaped, ragged, his chest rising too fast, his face dripping sweat and ichor and shame. You tilted your head, watching him with spinning eyes. Something deep inside you, something not quite dead, thrummed with hunger. But it wasn't for ichor. You leaned down, your face pressing against his neck, your jaw cracked wide, teeth scraping his skin, but it didn't break it. Instead, you breathed, a sound like a clogged vent, a rattling hiss. His whole body tensed beneath you, but he didn't scream. Your gloved fingers slipped, not tearing, just worming their way between his petals, between his chest. He squirmed, choked out a moan he didn't mean to make, because your hands were precise. They didn't stroke, they grasped, like you were feeling something precious, with truant tools. You shifted your weight, pushing him flatter, his knees bent up. You shifted your weight, pushing him flatter, his knees bent up as he was feeling a rising heat between his legs. His feet kicked at the floor helplessly, but you didn't pin him. You just loomed, your mouth dripping onto his chest. He stared up, dizzy, blushing, aching. You didn't speak. You couldn't, but your body leaned closer, and the way you moved, slow, with shaking anticipation, told him everything. He swallowed hard, and when your lips touched his again, not with teeth, but with heat, he whimpered into your mouth, because he was giving in, and he knew it. His body quaked, his lower appendages pulsating with excitement. Your body shifted again, one leg dragging over his hip, straddling him in full now, so your weight pressed him flat into the cracked linoleum. He gasped, not from pain, but from how heavy you felt, how real you felt. You leaned down again, your mouth brushing the corner of his jaw. He flinched, not because it hurt, but because your lips were so cold, so damp. They slid across his skin like melted wax. Your tongue slithered again, not inside this time, just out, licking the side of his throat, the wide, flat drag like tasting a favorite treat. He made a noise, something between a whine and a sob. His hands lifted, not to push you, but to hold your shoulders, like he was attempting to embrace you. He accepted it, whatever this was. You shuddered against him, not from cold, but from something else, something hot, burning inside that twisted chest, a flicker of something older, something close to what you once were, and he felt it. He didn't know what it was, but he felt it. And when your teeth grazed his collarbone hard enough to threaten, but soft enough to hesitate, he let his head fall back, eyes wide and wet. He realized, "You're not going to eat me," he thought. You growled low, the sound bubbling up from deep inside your chest, like a laugh drowned in ichor. Your nose brushed his, your breath reeking of metal and heat. He could barely keep his composure, pinned beneath your weight, his limbs useless, his mind spinning. Your claws scraped up his chest again. Not enough to wound, just enough to remind him how close you were to destroying him. But you didn't. Instead, you pressed your forehead to his, eyes flickering yellow and red, and you stared, as if trying to remember, trying to recognize something. His hands shook, but they stayed on your back, fingers curling into the tattered edges of your costume. He wasn't holding you back anymore. He was holding on. Your tongue retracted, slowly with a slick pop. He coughed, his voice hoarse, but his hips lifted just slightly under yours. And your eyes found something that you would definitely enjoy. Hey, you reached the end of the video. That makes you part of an exclusive club. Our secret password for this month is Shut Up Meg. Leave it in the comments below to tell fellow members you watched the video until the very end. Lastly, before we say goodbye, I want to take the opportunity and thank my channel members: Mimi Mumu, Adrijama, Jaws, Malofia, Mexicat, Allison Watkins, Mystic Jade 111, Joanna Moretti, Twilight Mia, Angry Boxman, and Anonymous Weep. Thank you for being darling stewards. And of course, a big thank you to all the other channel members. It's you who keep me alive. Thank you, and goodbye.